Well, cheers, and do buckaroos. How the heck are you? I am Tom the Whiskey Whisperer for the purposes of this video anyway. One more time, I'm feeling this will be the last one today, as this will take us into tomorrow, you see. Anyways, I digress. Oh, I'm so tired. My feet hurt so bad. Anyways, I'm going to try not to complain much more this evening. And we're just going to have a little whiskey. Anyways, I digress. Let me fix this real quick. There we go. That should get us in business. See if that worked. Anyways, let's set that down out of the way. As always, if you have any questions or comments, please put it out there. If you'd like to be part of the video, let me know and I will send you the link, typically via Messenger. But anyway, so I want to start with this one. This one I told you last video. I've been dying to try again. I've had a little bit of it, but it's been a minute. Switchgrass Spirits out of St. Louis, Missouri. It's their American single malt whiskey, limited release at 92 proof. Show you that bottle there. So I poured a little bit here in the neat glass. Oh man, I do love this category. I gotta tell you, because it is such a different animal from what you're used to a single malt whiskey as. If we're talking Scotch single malt, Irish single malt, Japanese single malt, all they're rather distinctive. And then this American category is just amazing to me. How it just, again, it is very American in the fact that it's not like any of the others. Of course, Scotch single malt, you have those big peated whiskeys, which are very distinctive. Most Japanese single malts that I've had anyway seem to be similar, but feel just a little bit lighter, right? A little more tame than your typical Scotch. Then Irish single malts tend to be, they're often referred to as the smooth, sweeter one, which again, there are some exceptions. There are some peated Irish single malts, but most of them aren't. They tend to be a little lighter, more subtle. And then American single malts are just what you would expect an American category to do, would just be big and bold, and not like you would expect it to be. So let me see if this bottle tells me much other than say tasting notes: chocolate, cherries, and fresh baked bread. Proudly Midwestern made, aged no less than 2 years. So it is a young single malt. You do feel those beautiful malted barley notes on the nose. You do feel that barrel spice. It doesn't say how it's aged here. I'm going to assume by the color and by the nose, frankly, that they're using new charred white oak. Cut the taste, batch distilled. God, this stuff is gorgeous. Kicking myself for not buying 2 bottles of it. I picked this bottle up back in August. As you can see, I haven't drank much out of it for having it that long, but well, I wish I had a second bottle of it. And we haven't even taken a drink yet, so here we go. Damn, wow, chocolate. So I'm going to put a slightly finer point on it and say about a 70% dark chocolate. Cherries. Again, I'm going to put a slightly finer point on it and say dark cherry notes, much like a, Luxardo or Maraschka cocktail cherry. And fresh baked bread. By golly, fresh baked bread. Let's take another drink. Yeah, and again, I'm going to put a finer point on it and say a very dark pumpernickel because you almost feel those caraway like notes in there. Oh, this stuff is gorgeous. I got to tell you, man. For a very young single malt, aged no less than 2 years, it's probably not aged much more than 2 years. Because when you talk about single malts, you're usually looking at age, right? You're talking about 5, 10, 15 years old. I've had the Restless Spirits Gully Town, which were both 5 years old. And here I have the youngest of them at probably right at 2, maybe a little bit over. And it's just absolutely beautiful, man. I think sometimes what's hard for a lot of folks to get their heads around is that not every whiskey has to be aged an extremely long time to reach its peak. Ah, this is gorgeous and very easy to drink. At that 92 proof, I like 92. I like a minimum of 90. I got to where 80 proof whiskeys seem very light and watery to me, so I kind of given them up for Lent. A little Irish Catholic joke there. Anyways, no, but I do kind of like a minimum of 90, but I kind of like a little higher as well. This at 92 proof, though, really feels about right. Viscous. That's just gorgeous. I do like the color, though. Again, most Scotch and Irish whiskeys tend to be a little lighter in color, especially Japanese whiskeys. They tend to be very light, almost like Irish single malts. But the American single malts tend to, well, again, they tend to be a category unto themselves. I mean, I've had two different whiskeys from Gully Town. One looks a lot like the switchgrass for the rivals. The other one looks a lot like an Irish, and a lot of it just depends on the aging process. The one Gully Town is aged in new bourbon casks. That's what I'm going to show you. Is aged much like an Irish whiskey. It's, as you can see, it's much lighter in used bourbon casks, much like Irish whiskey. So again, it just depends. It seems like all of the American single malts I have had have been very distinctly different, and maybe that's why I love the category because it is different. It isn't a Scotch. It isn't an Irish. It isn't a Japanese. It is an entity unto itself. This American single malt category using 100% malted barley, but it just takes a life of its own. I have run into a few people that said they're not crazy about American single malt whiskeys, but when I pressed them as to why, I can't really get a clear answer. Always ever been able to say, well, all I really get is, well, I haven't had one I've liked, but nobody's been able to really tell me why. And quite frankly, I don't know that I've had one I haven't. I don't know that I've had one that I have disliked at this point. There are some I've liked more than others. Don't get me wrong, and I haven't had that many. But those that I've had, I've really enjoyed. This one, for instance, again, it's the youngest of the bunch that I have here on hand, and it is rather easy to drink neat as you want a single malt whiskey. To be honest with you, But I will tell you that I've had other switchgrass products that I have really liked. Their bourbon and the rye I liked a lot. So I'm not surprised if I like this one as well because, they clearly know what they're doing. Oh man, it's absolutely gorgeous. This is beautiful. You're beautiful, babe. Don't ever change. Anyways, anyways, I digress. Oh. So it has been a long week. These snow days we had a snow. A lot of what I do is kind of dependent on what everybody else does. So if we get a snow day in our school system, it kind of shuts down what I do, which means I just have to work harder the rest of the week to keep it caught up. And because of that, I'm just, it's taken its toll on my old body. Let's just say. So my feet have just been sore all week, and it just kept getting worse and worse till I finally got through tonight, where I can just kind of rest for a couple of days. I have Saturday and Sunday off, and we can just relax. So I mentioned, so they tell you to look for chocolate, cherries, and fresh baked bread. So I've commented on all of those, but I do want to add a few things, or at least one or two things. Maybe not a few, but I got some other things to say. I feel like I'm picking up some brown sugar in here because I'm feeling some molasses notes. Also, feel like I'm picking up a hint of raisin as well. I mentioned the dark pumpernickel because you feel a little bit of that caraway. But you might also feel some other spice notes. Uh, in particular, I feel like I'm picking up a little ginger, a little allspice, maybe a little clove, a little nutmeg. This is a gorgeous young whiskey, and it wasn't crazy expensive either. So, I mean, if you wanted to do something else with it, you could. If you want to drink it on the rocks, hey man, do your thing. I don't. I certainly wouldn't highball a whiskey like this. Whether you want to cocktail it, well, that's kind of up to you. But I would, the only two cocktails I would even consider doing this with would be a Manhattan, a version of a Manhattan, I should say, or an old fashioned. But quite frankly, it just drinks beautiful, neat. I don't know why you'd want to do anything else with it. Again, for a young single malt, it is beyond gorgeous. Ugh, oh, mercy. So I am looking forward to a day off tomorrow. I got some things planned, but I'm not going to go into that with you this evening. I'll talk about it after, I'll do a recap tomorrow. I want to make sure that everything goes off as planned before I say it out loud. Oh, biscuits, that's good. This whiskey is something special, man. I got to tell you, it is good. Yeah, I do like the baked bread descriptor they give there. Again, I just want to put that finer point on because it feels more like a brown bread, like a pumpernickel kind of bread. But they leave out the spice notes that you get that big oak, that nice oak and spice in the finish, and they don't add that here. But I feel like you're getting some ginger, some allspice. I actually, so you might say cinnamon as well, but I'm feeling more allspice than cinnamon to be honest with you, because it comes at a different place on the palate for you. So I want to go to the other side of the state now, to Kansas City. Well, actually, I want to go to another state. I say Kansas City because they're uh, they're Kansas City adjacent. Anyways, Union Horse Distilling American Single Malt Whiskey. This one's at 96 proof. They're right all next to Kansas, but it's right there, right? It's they're right there in Kansas City, anyways. Rivalist American Single Malt Whiskey. It's a small batch artisanal whiskey. I got to be honest with you. I love everything this distillery does. I'm a big fan. Their Rolling Standard, their rye, their bourbon, everything they do is just insanely good. It's a small batch artisanal whiskey made from 100% malted barley by Union Horse Distilling, handcrafted from start to finish using the finest Midwest barley in our copper pot still, then aged to perfection in new oak barrels. So they're using new oak barrels, right? Beautifully complex and elegantly simple, Rivalist combines tender notes of caramel, orange peel, and baking spices with a long lasting, succulent finish. Pour a glass and give a toast to perfection. They don't tell me how old it is, though. I'm not getting an age on the whiskey. If I had to guess, though, I would say it is a young whiskey, much like the switchgrass we just had. However, let's pick it up and we'll talk about some of those notes they talk about. Yeah. I get a sweetness on the nose. I get a lot of molasses on the nose. So they say caramel. Okay. Yeah. Again, I'm going to put a finer point. I'm going to take a drink, then I'll put a. I'm just talking about the nose, but I want to talk about the flavor too. One thing they don't talk about here that I want to say first before I get into the flavor and everything else is the viscosity. Everything about this whiskey is gorgeous. It is just one of those whiskeys that is extremely pleasant to drink. The viscosity is just so velvety smooth. It's absolutely gorgeous. Okay, so let's start with the first. They say caramel. I'm going to put a finer point on that and say more of a dark caramel, almost a burnt sugar caramel. Used to be able to buy them in the stores. All you see is light caramels anymore. But I remember as a kid, the Brock's display, they have the light caramel and dark caramel. So if you know what I'm talking about, yeah, it's much more of that dark caramel note. Orange peel, yeah, I certainly feel the orange peel notes. Baking spice with a long lasting succulent finish. Yeah, you are going to feel some of those spice notes. So what I talked about that switchgrass that they don't add there. They do talk about them here. This is baking spice. That could be a variety of things. Typically, if we're talking about baking spice, you could be talking about cinnamon, allspice, clove, nutmeg, ginger, and I'm probably leaving something out here. But if you have a palate for spices, you're going to feel all of those things. I almost feel like I'm picking up some toasted hazelnut notes as well in here. To add to their descriptors, I'm going to say some toasted hazelnut, uh, caramel, orange peel, baking spice. And you do feel that nice oak in the finish with those spice notes that they talk about. But again, I want to go back to again the mouthfeel, something that kind of gets left out. A whiskey can taste good, but it might not feel great on the palate. This one just drinks absolutely perfectly. I've been a fan of this whiskey since I first had it. In fact, I bought two bottles, and this is what I have left of the first bottle. I haven't popped the second one yet, but because I've been trying to drink it sparingly, it is so amazingly good. It does have some similarities to that switchgrass here, but it does. I do feel like it's probably a little bit older than switchgrass because it seems to have a little more maturity to it, if that makes sense to you. The way it drinks, it's a little bit differently. The flavors and aromas seem to be a little more developed for me. That's why I could tell a difference. Okay, I feel like this is a little older than this one. Um, but gosh, I do love the Union Horse products are so crazy good. The first thing I ever had from them is a Rolling Standard 4 grain whiskey, and that thing was just mercy good. And then I had their bourbon, then I had their rye, then I had their cask bourbon and cask rice. Oh god, these guys are crazy. The products that that Union Horse is doing is absolutely amazing, man. But this rivalist is just, I mean, in my opinion, now that this is the American single malt whiskey that others are going to aspire to. This thing is just gorgeous. This is the epitome of an almost damn perfect American single malt. As this whiskey ages, I would love to see versions of this at 5 years old, 10 years old, uh, and just to see what it does as it ages. This thing is just beyond gorgeous. Ah, damn, that's good. That's good whiskey, man. That's tasty, man. I don't care who you are. That's just good. Oh man. Uh, anyways, I digress. So yeah, I mean, this category can go a lot of different directions. I mean, the switchgrass, the rivalist. There are some similarities. I do feel. I will tell you that I feel like the rivalist. The notes seem a little more mature, if that makes sense. I'm looking at. I also have the Yellowstone at 108 proof American single malt. And I've got the two versions of the Gully Town here as well. And do I have a favorite? The truth is, I don't. Kind of depends on what I'm in the mood for. To be honest with you, the Yellowstone is great for different things. I will tell you, I might have a soft spot in my heart for that Rivalist for different reasons, but they're all just amazing. So, anyways, I digress. I am Ton of Whiskey Whisper, Whiskey Evangelist, prolific whiskey drinker, career wisdom man. All around good guys. Watch ya.